Services Training Specialist here at Denton's. And today is the first in what I hope will be a number of recordings that we will be doing interviews with individuals that will be made available to the membership of the Mid-America Association of Law Libraries through the MAALL Markings newsletter. This specific interview will be posted on the spring 2026 edition of MAALL Markings, so please look for it there. It will be also posted on my YouTube channel, plus possibly some other law librarian listservs. Today, we're welcoming to the interview Kristen Sonday. Kristen is the co-founder of Paladin. Paladin is a tool that law firms use in helping them manage their pro bono work. And if I'm going to read right from the website, is that Paladin is the go-to platform for connecting the pro bono community and empowering legal teams to do more pro bono more efficiently. So we're going to talk about the tool. We're going to talk about how the tool works. We're going to talk about how we, as legal and information specialists and librarians, can get involved, and the importance of us being involved in pro bono work. So again, Kristen, welcome to the interview. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I always like to start off these chats with talking about you as a human being, as a person. Can you give me some background on your personal narrative and how you came to be where you are today?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And as you mentioned, our mission at Paladin is to help streamline the pro bono process with the end goal of increasing access to justice. So, my background is initially with the US Justice Department. I was doing international criminal work in Mexico and
Oh,
Central America, yeah, before joining the founding team of a tech company in New York. But it was really at DOJ where I got to see firsthand, as one of the few Latinos on the team, one of the few people who spoke Spanish, um, really identifying with a lot of our survivors and victims and seeing how difficult it was for them and their families to navigate our legal system. And I also saw how critical it was for them to have an advocate with them through, either the DA's office or the AUSA's office, someone to just help them navigate that process more efficiently and effectively. And that's when I knew I wanted to do something to help underserved communities in particular. I'm also first generation college Latina. Like, this is a very personal mission for me to help these communities. And after that, I joined the founding team of a tech company in New York, where I learned how to scale startups and tech driven solutions, both domestically and internationally. And I really got my training on the ground there. And so Paladin is this great intersection of figuring out for me, how can I leverage technology to increase access to justice, especially for those who need it the most.
so this is interesting. So are you a legal practitioner by training? So you are an attorney by training.
I'm not
Oh,
actually. I know. I joke that I play one on TV, but my co-founder Felicity, she was a litigator at a big firm in New York, and when we met through a mutual friend many years ago, she had just come off of winning an asylum case for a Colombian man and his family who were being persecuted by a local guerrilla group. And she was telling me about how meaningful this case was for her and how it was really the reason why she wanted to get into law to begin with, to help people. And I was talking about my experience through the Justice Department. And she said, you know what, Kristen, she said, so many of my friends like want to get involved with pro bono work. And right now it's just a really manual process. It's like quite hard to figure out the right case for you. And it's a pretty like old system. And so I thought, that might be a place where I, given my tech background and my personal interest in this work, could really come together and support the pro bono ecosystem. And that's how the idea for Paladin was built, to really be this like underlying infrastructure for the pro bono world in a way that tech hadn't really evolved in the same way it did for billable work.
this is interesting because this goes right into the next question about how this company came about. What were the hallmarks, for want of a better word, or what did you see as
Mm,
specific the needs in the pro bono community that you thought
mm.
you and your colleagues who founded pro bono would be addressing? What were the specific needs that needed to be addressed?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's what's interesting to me is like the interest has always been there. People want to do pro bono work. They want to feel connected to their communities. They want to be building skills for professional development needs. They want to be, expanding their networks and learning from others, working with clients to build business development relationships. So folks have always been interested in the work itself. The problem was really the way in which the work had been taken in, vetted, referred out, and ultimately assigned and tracked. And it had just been on kind of a labyrinth of emails and spreadsheets and more antiquated tech solutions. And so we figured that we could build a better workflow tool ultimately to help decrease a lot of the administrative work of getting people involved and really get to the heart of the work itself.
And it also probably relied a lot on like personal relationships. For example,
Yeah.
our pro bono partner Ben Weinberg, whom you know,
Mhm.
is very well connected, and he can, for want of a better word, whistle up a pro bono matter, at the drop of a hat. But that's relying on his personal network and his connections with many in the nonprofit in the pro bono world. This
Yeah.
product, it seems like, helps accelerate that process to connect people
Mhm.
in a lot in a more rapid fashion, and it's not relying on one individual to be the linchpin for
Yeah.
pro bono work. That's great. Um,
Yeah.
Tell me about the name Paladin. How did you and your colleagues come up with the name? Because it's a very interesting name. Tell us about that whole world.
I love that question, and I have to give Felicity credit for this one. So, a paladin was a knight on King Charlemagne's court in the 8th century, and it means a warrior for good. And we thought that it just perfectly encapsulated what we're trying to accomplish while also honoring so many attorneys who have come before us in legal aid and in pro bono and in private practice who have taken on this mantle to help others. So I really love that it's a combination of meanings. And it's
Excellent.
also a World of Warcraft character, I believe. So we get a lot of gamers who get excited about the
Well,
name.
that any as we say, any port in a storm, and anything that's going to get people connected and interested,
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Um, what is Paladin's business model? So how? I mean, obviously you have this infrastructure in place. Um,
Hmm.
Infrastructure is not free. How
Yeah.
does what's the business model? How do you keep Paladin going as an ongoing concern?
Yes, absolutely. So Paladin essentially is a technology platform, an enterprise SaaS platform, just like any other tech tool that the firm would use. And we essentially provide a subscription to the firm for
Okay.
their attorneys to use the platform. What's really unique about us, though, is that that funding then subsidizes completely free tools to the legal aid organizations who are using the
Wow.
platform. So, how the platform works is that we give that free version of the tool to over 350 legal services orgs across the country, increasingly worldwide. They intake the client directly, they vet eligibility, they scope the legal work to make sure that it is, right for pro bono representation. And then they enter that information into Paladin. With a click of a button, then they can send it out in real time to all the law firms, corporate teams, bar associations. We just launched with 30 law schools last fall, which was really exciting. And the idea is to create this real time repository of pro bono needs around the country where attorneys can then log in. They can search, sort, filter by different areas, practice areas, causes and communities, types of work, litigation versus transactional, time commitments. If someone only has a few hours, we will find them a case so they can get involved. Um, and we just want to make the entire process as seamless and easy as possible. I should also add that it's not just for lawyers. So as someone who is not a lawyer, I am also very adamant about figuring out ways that we can get other folks involved with pro bono cases. And as you know, like there's so much that goes into a pro bono case, whether that's research or drafting, or I mean, there's so many different aspects of a matter, and pro bono in addition has a number of variety of formats. So we work with a lot of firms that do clinics where they're seeing a whole roster of clients come in a matter of a few hours that they're managing. So there's administrative work, there's interpretative and translation work to be done. So there are a lot of ways that folks who are not lawyers within firms can also go to Paladin and search for cases that don't require a JD and be able to help and support these matters.
I'd like to drill into that just a little bit because our community, the law librarian and information professional community, is a graying community. I mean, you
Mm.
can tell from my own, um, and oftentimes many of our what I would call senior members who leave full-time paid work are looking for
Mm.
meaningful ways to
Mm.
contribute to both the law, either the law profession or the community at large. So this might be a
Mhm.
way in which individuals who
Mm.
are retirees, they could find a way to get access to Paladin, look for opportunities where they can use their legal research skills, their drafting skills, whatever, to deliver value and to really aid some individuals. So this is something that um, is of great interest to me because in about 8-10 years I'll be retiring and I'll be looking for ways to continue
Yeah.
to contribute to the community. Excellent. Um,
Yeah.
can you step us through a pro bono matter that is handled or managed through Paladin? So who does what? Where does
Mhm.
Paladin come in? Where does Paladin leave? Where is it taken over by the attorney? How does, like, from initial intake to final disposition, how does Paladin wind its way through the entire process?
Mhm. It's funny, when we first started the company, Felicity and I sat down with a number of pro bono partners and counsels to map this process, including Ben Weinberg, who's one of my favorite people. And we found that it took about 52 steps from
Wow.
case intake to closure, exactly, to find and manage and report on these pro bono cases. And so we were trying to figure out where can we leverage technology to make this process a lot faster. So to give you an example of how it works now, it starts with the legal services organizations. They are the heart of the pro bono ecosystem. So we can take we're both in Chicago. So I'll use Lane, Legal Aid for New Entrepreneurs as an example. And they work with new founders and entrepreneurs who are starting businesses in the Chicagoland area. And so a founder entrepreneur will come to Lane. They'll say, I want to start a company. I don't know exactly what I need to do to get started, but can you help me get set up? So Lane will intake this client, they'll vet them for pro bono eligibility, they'll sit down and figure out exactly what legal needs the organization has, because oftentimes folks know they have a problem, but they don't know that it's necessarily legal. They don't know what type of legal help they need. And so it's really important to have that legal aid organization as the front line to really scope it out. They'll say, okay, we're going to set you up with, formation documents and kind of early stage corporate documents. They will then put that opportunity onto Paladin, send it out in real time to all the different firms. And at this point, we work with over 45 AM law firms, top global firms who are really excited to participate in this work. And then those volunteers can go in and again search, sort, filter by different practice areas. Let's say someone is wanting to do transactional work. We hear that a lot, that folks want to stick with their specific practice area, or they want to find something that's a bit smaller scope. And so they are able to learn more about the matter and the client and the referring organization to understand what kind of training and supervisory services will be available. They'll express interest in a matter through the platform. Lane, Legal Aid for New Entrepreneurs, will get notified, and then they'll review that volunteer's information to make sure the match is appropriate, and then connect the client and the volunteer to get started off of Paladin. So we're really thinking about how do we intake all of this casework from across the country. And you reference, Ben having great relationships, and he does. And so many pro bono counsel have incredible relationships. But when you're managing dozens of offices across the country, having everything coming in automatically in real time really cuts down on a lot of the back and forths and administrative work that the pro bono teams need to do in order to regularly find matters and share them out. So we want to centralize all that inbound casework. We want to share it out to this real-time database for volunteers to be able to search. And then rather than having to go back and forth a number of times with folks in order to get involved, they can just click a button, which will automatically connect everyone on the pro bono team within the legal aid org and the volunteers team to share information and get started on the case. And so that's typically the the pro bono process from entry into Paladin to taking on the case. And then we have a number of fun reporting and analytics tools too that tell us not just how many hours the firm has done or an individual volunteer, which is typically the only thing that's previously been tracked, but we want to know what's happening with those hours. So who are the communities that the firms are serving? What types of skills are junior folks building off their pro bono work? Which corporate clients are we working with through pro bono matters? um, and really understanding more holistically the impact of the work from a community and a business perspective, through all of the tracking and the aggregation that we're doing.
This is interesting in a couple of for a couple of reasons. First off, it seems like Paladin is sort of the upfront piece. So the legal aid entities bring in, they do their own intake process.
Mhm.
They get data into Paladin. Paladin then sends out the opportunity to firms, and then once the opportunity is staffed with attorneys and whatever professionals are needed, it
Mhm.
seems like Paladin sort of takes a back seat until the end when there's
Mhm.
sort of reporting up how many hours worked, who did what, that sort of thing. Am I characterizing it correctly?
Yeah, exactly. It's really about minimizing all the administrative work to free up the pro bono team, the volunteers' time for much higher leverage work.
And another thing I wanted to call that you called to my attention is that
Mhm.
when people think of pro bono work, oftentimes we have an image of pro bono work as a family who is facing deportation or somebody
Mhm.
who in a jail whose rights are
Yep.
being violated. But pro
Yep.
bono work can also include the work that Lane does. So working with individuals who are not in, and this is my own phrase, a desperate
Mhm.
situation, someone who's like trying to make money, which is
Yeah.
not a bad thing. But so
Right.
that's also included in the world of pro bono, and I think uh,
Yeah.
people who get involved in pro bono. Or who want to get involved in pro bono need to think maybe a little larger, not just the
Yeah.
folks as my phrase in the desperate situation, but also individuals who are trying to expand and create new value in different ways. Excellent.
Yeah. And actually
Oh,
you raise
please.
a really no, you raise a really good point because that's I think one of the biggest misconceptions of pro bono is that it has to be this long drawn out, asylum matter or an innocence case project, which of course are amazing and truly life-changing cases. And also, there are so many ways to get involved in a smaller capacity or a shorter time capacity if people want. And I think kind of demystifying pro bono is really important and making sure people are aware of that. The other thing I'll note that you kind of alluded to is that another reason folks are afraid to get involved with pro bono is that it's typically in an area outside of their day to day and their regular practice area. And I want to just emphasize that there's so much training and supervisory services available for folks who do want to try something new that they shouldn't be afraid to talk to the legal aid organizations about what's involved. Those LSOs, legal services organizations, are truly the experts, and they are with the volunteers every step of the way and providing mentorship and resources and trainings. And then folks within the firm, of course, can be great resources as well. And I think it's really important for people to try a matter outside of their comfort zone, especially in an area that they're excited about, because it is the way that we scale this help and really have global impact.
Excellent. Thank you. I'd like to talk about um, trends in pro bono. So we're looking at
Mm-hmm.
the pro bono world in general. What are you seeing in terms of trends in pro bono matters? Do these trends run in
Yeah.
cycles? What sort of pro
Yeah.
bono matters are you seeing coming into Paladin, sort of as a percentage? Certain percentages this, certain percentages that. What are you seeing?
hmm Yeah, we do tend to see kind of macroeconomic cyclical trends. For example, during COVID, we saw housing issues surging, and a lot of pro bono teams were kind of coming together to help with housing issues at scale. Immigration is another area that fluctuates greatly. It's interesting. I often get asked if we've seen a change in pro bono hours in the past year as a result of some of the executive orders from 2025. And the short answer is no. Pro bono seems to be very consistent across the board. Um, We have seen a little bit of immigration work tick down, a little bit of veterans work ticking up um, as the climate shifts. But generally speaking, the teams hold really steady, and the types of folks that they're helping remains consistent across the board, which is great.
Excellent. Now, when what does a typical pro bono team look like of the projects that come into Paladin? So, like how many
Hmm.
partners, senior associates, junior associates, professional staff? What is the makeup of these
Yeah.
typically of these teams?
Typically, every pro bono matter will have at least one partner assigned as a supervisor, and then they'll have a team of other partners or associates executing the work itself. And then we'll typically see the legal services organization acting as another type of supervisor or advisor throughout the case to make sure that everything is executed according to that specific practice area and local expertise. But that's typically what we'll see. One thing that I'm excited about this summer is that there are a lot of bespoke projects for summer associates. And so as junior folks come up, and we're seeing in the law schools too, we're increasingly seeing pro bono used as a professional development tool to get students and junior folks real world experience. There's just no substitute, right? And so being able to, apply early learnings to pro bono cases can increase your impact in the community, help build relationships, help build skills. But at the end of the day, of course, they do have to be supervised by a partner at the firm. So we'll see more of those teams coming together this summer.
Excellent. Now, to the reason why we're here is to inform and update and educate legal information professionals and law librarians of the matters that you're seeing coming into Paladin. How many of
Yeah.
those do you feel, from your experience, would benefit of having a law librarian, a legal information specialist as
Yeah.
part of that team? What percentage of those projects do you think would really benefit from someone with the skills and talents that we bring?
I genuinely think that every pro bono matter would benefit by having a law librarian or information specialist assigned to it. I mean, especially because these matters are typically outside of the expertise, the day-to-day expertise that the volunteers have in taking it on. I think there's a really unique opportunity for librarians to help surface authoritative resources and research for folks, reduce inefficiency in doing that research and conveying information, and then just supporting them generally and working outside of those specialty areas. And like you said, I mean, you all have a really unique skill set that is especially helpful in areas where folks don't know the areas of law and case law and such as well. So I think there's a really big opportunity to leverage those skills to help expedite pro bono matters.
And now we come to the obligatory question. How do you see AI impacting positively or negatively in the
Yeah.
provision of pro bono services?
Personally, I am really excited about the opportunity for AI to increase access to justice. Just to give you a sense of the magnitude of the issue, currently, legal aid organizations have to turn away about 50% of people,
Wow.
even who qualify for pro bono, just due to a lack of capacity. And so we are focused right now at Paladin on increasing that capacity through volunteers and their skill sets, but it's not sufficient. So at the end of the day, we are going to be having to think about how AI and advanced technologies can provide resources and tools to help across the board. And so I see AI really being leveraged for three different groups to help increase access to justice. The first is on the legal aid side, just really helping with triage and intake and vetting to determine which type of resourcing would be most appropriate for a new client. And hopefully we can increase the volume of folks we can help by making that intake a lot cleaner and then building tools to help them do their jobs more efficiently and effectively. Again, saving that administrative time to free up for their expertise. The second is through pro bono tools, which of course is where we focus. So what types of tools can we develop and equip the pro bono volunteers with in order to do their work a lot more efficiently? And then the last is ultimately opening it up to pro se folks and making sure that for the 50% of people that are turned away, for the people that don't qualify but also don't make enough money to go to market with an attorney in the field, how can we give them resources and tools to help them navigate their own issues better and more fairly is something that I'm very excited about doing. So I think there is a lot of potential. One just quick example I'll give you is that we work with a number of legal aid organizations, a number of whom are kind of building their own internal tools. We worked with an organization in Tennessee, Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands, and they actually had a paralegal who built a very cool tech platform based on ChatGPT and Zapier and Gavel. And they built an expungement tool that essentially would intake all the legal documents. It would separate out the charges from the convictions. It would flag the ones that were eligible for expungement and then automatically draft a petition. And that work, I mean, they used to, do full day long clinics and be able to help, a few dozen people. In a few hours now, they can help expunge hundreds of records because this technology helps them parse through everything a lot faster. And of course, they do the final review to make sure everything checks out and files it. But that's just one example of how powerful this technology can be in applying it to issues at scale to help people resolve their legal problems a lot faster and move on with their lives, which of course had such strong second and third order consequences. So I'm very excited to see, how we can contribute to that type of work in the future.
Excellent. And our final question, in your opinion, how best can we as legal information professionals, law librarians, advocate for ourselves so that we can aid in our
Yeah.
firm's pro bono efforts?
I love that question. So, first thing I'd say is to reach out to your pro bono team and just get a sense of, what types of work the firm's currently focused on, what's currently active, where the gaps are that match y'all's skill sets and where you can plug in. The other thing I would ask them is how can you get involved, for those that don't have law degrees, how can you get involved in other parts of the process, whether it is on like clinics and administration or research projects or other types of work, translation, interpretation that doesn't require the degree. Those are things that I look for personally all the time, and there are just so many ways to get involved. And I know that they appreciate any and all help. And so, just reaching out to them and starting that dialogue, I think, is a great first step.
Well,
The other thing
excellent.
I'll add, sorry,
Please,
is that
please.
Paladin also has public pro bono portals across about over 15 states at this point, and they're on our website, joinpaladin.com. And there, all the pro bono opportunities, which kind of aggregates pro bono across each state, it's run by the State Bar Association, where you can go in and it's open to the public. You can search for pro bono matters that match your specific skill sets and communities that you're interested in serving, et cetera. And so I would encourage you to check out whether your state has a statewide Paladin pro bono portal to find casework to get involved with directly.
Excellent. Well, with that, we've come to the end of our time together. Kristen, I really appreciate you taking the time of sharing your experience, your wisdom with us. Again, uh, this interview will be made available via link on the spring edition of the MAALL Markings Journal. It'll also be available on my own personal YouTube page. It'll also probably be distributed through the PLLIPSIS community board on allnet.org. Kristen, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to seeing more great things from Paladin and an expansion of aid delivered to deserving individuals through the pro bono process.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.